Greetings everyone, this is me in my dressing gown again, having an early morning, listening to the birds outside, and it's just started raining, so they've all disappeared, but I love listening to the bird song. I was kind of inspired a bit to make a show, because I had a few questions, which is great. Always love my questions from people, and I have questions for others as well. And we were discussing all these different versions of love that there are, especially in the Greek myths. They talk about Eros and Philomena, or Philadelphia, Philomena or something else, Philadelphia and such like. And I went to a workshop about Goethe's The Lily and the Snake, the fairy tale he wrote, which is very deep esoteric implications in it that people are still trying to fathom out. But there was an interesting line in this, let me just find my notes, where he says, "Love does not rule, but it trains, and that is more." You know, love does train us. If we begin to understand what love really is, and the unconditional, compassionate love that we can use in our lives and give to other people and to other animals and to everything, it's like a training for ourselves as we learn how to accept everybody, ourselves. Which is why I kind of now see Aleister Crowley's "Do What They Will, It's the Whole of the Law, Love is the Law, Love Under Will." You know, we need that will to train ourselves to love unconditionally. And many people don't have the will to do this kind of work. And maybe that's why we need to develop that first, so that we can understand what love really is. This is just me pottering on. I'm thinking about all this. Love is obviously an important part of how we express ourselves. And if we can create that unconditional love vibration and spread it out, it will become like ripples and go forward through the world and will affect other people that we meet. And then when we're being unloving, unconditional, then unconditional love, putting conditions on things, it's a more corrupted love. Whereas will, I think, can only go two ways. Either you have it or you don't. Where love, as I've said in other shows, is there's many different types. So where was I taking it with that? Okay, yeah, so I got to thinking, because I was watching all these lovely birds out here as I sit in my dressing gown, thinking I should go for a shower and just get up really. But it's so gorgeous to sit out here and watch the birds and watch the sunrise. I try to do my exercises when the sun rises. And I'm a big believer in the sun gods and the sun heroes, and that there's a difference between moon worship and sun worship. Now, we need both, but the moon can obviously help us look at our darker side, our shadow side, and the sun helps us look at our solar life force. And I can't remember now why I was going along with that. And the moon's reflecting the sun as it waxes and wanes, obviously, so that is sunlight coming into the night. I hope it's gone. I can't remember why I brought that up, but it doesn't matter. But coming back to the unconditional love and the compassionate love, this is something that we're supposed to be working on ourselves, because for those that do the Gurdjieff work, we know that we're talking about lifting the sorrows of the divine, of his endlessness. We're trying to help the divine continue with its work. I'm going to say his now, it's just easier so I don't have to keep tripping over my words. So the divine source is helping this universe go along, creating itself in a harmonious way, hopefully. And by working on ourselves and being aware, and then using the compassionate love of understanding how the rest of this universe is working and how the rest of people are treating each other and this world's going on, and how people treat animals, how people treat birds, how people treat the earth, whether they're doing it in a loving way or not in a loving way. We're trying to be a loving type of person going forward. So we're we're supposed to be a reflection of the divine coming down. The divine's giving endless love to everybody. But then we have the free will of how we use that love, or whether we take it on board and be a reflection of it back out to the divine. Are we reflecting his goodliness, his godliness? Or are we corrupting it and turning it into what would then be wrong use of that kind of energy? We're de-evolving and instead using that unconditional love for nefarious purposes, or perhaps from egotistical purposes, or people change it into it being all about them and not being concerned about everybody else, and that they think this world's just for them. So this is part of doing this kind of work, is that we want to be that solar being that can reflect back, like the sun reflects off the moon. I can just remember what I was on about now. We want to reflect back to the divine and alleviate his sorrow, and instead bring joy and love. It's like we're mimicking, but we shouldn't just be mimicking, because we should be feeling that unconditional love within us, that compassion, to pass forward to the divine and on into the world. And I was recently talking to someone about the word Om, been doing a lot of Oms, and someone was saying to me, well, what is Om? It doesn't really have any meaning, which is true. It's not got a specific definition to be put in the dictionary, but it's a very important word. It's a vibration, isn't it? Om, you feel it vibrate through you. And this wonderful guy started explaining how Om, it's 3 syllables, A-U-M. So some say it's O-M, but I liked his 3 syllable explanation of Om, A-U-M. So you're doing your A, Om is for yourself, the U is for humanity, and M is for the whole of the universe and life force. So it's like a 3-in-1 prayer. Om is for you, humanity, and the wonderful universe. And I just wanted to also quickly add, before I go off and start this day properly, though I have started the day properly, I always find the best way to start the day is perhaps a little meditation and some exercises. I suppose I meant start the day in the material sense. I've been trying to put everything into a spiritual and soulful context. And then I came across a wonderful quote from Rudolf Steiner the other day, saying that all this work that all the lectures, all the writings, everything he did was to try and bring spiritual truth down into the human domain. And this is why we're supposed to be having, I've got his quote here, spiritual truths have now to be grasped by human thought. And that's what we're doing in this kind of work. We're trying to bring forth spiritual thought into our human thought. We're trying to think not in just a secular way or an intellectual way. We're trying to think with our spirit and our soul, and seeing the spiritual truth behind everything, because everything's got a spiritual truth behind it, but it's how we've materialized it. So this is what I just wanted to do, a little show that kind of encouraged everyone to work on themselves like that, which I'm sure you are doing anyway. Don't forget to be doing your ohms and vibrations and your prayers. Say them with intention and with truth, and with working on yourselves to become that reflection of the divine, what the divine's giving to us. We want to use, generate and reflect back out into the universe, because people will pick up them vibrations and those feelings and use it hopefully it will affect them. And they're, like I was saying earlier, the ripple effect. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the channel. Have a wonderful day out there. Go forth and, well, I was going to say go forth and multiply, but multiply your spiritual and soulful thoughts out into the universe so that they can ripple on with themselves. So for me and the birds, which aren't singing anymore, I was hoping I could get some recordings of them singing. Have a wonderful day, and until next time, peace and out.